Hello. The purpose of this video is to explain how to create a room finish schedule. So you're watching basically the video lecture and explanation for this module item, room finish schedule. And to start with, let me explain that there are three main parts of a room. It's basically the floor, the walls, and the ceiling. Okay. And for the floors, we know that there are different kinds of floors. We got tile floors, wood floors, we got mosaic floors, and sometimes we would see this glass floors. You could use porcelain or natural stone floors. Yeah, and some have special floors that are none of these conventional floors, right? One trending floor finish is concrete. So if you like, let's go to Google and put in like concrete floors, okay, finish. You would see them like this, and they're basically bare concrete that has like a special finish on it, typically clear epoxy. Sometimes they put like a little stain on it, okay, uh, or dab some kind of finishing on it before they put the clear epoxy. Okay, I've seen that sometimes in churches, in cafes. Yeah, so a bare finish concrete with an epoxy finish uh, is sometimes good to look at. Okay, and it's relatively cheap, not expensive. You just have to really get a good installer or application expert because if they don't know what they're doing, it would really look bad. Okay, so anyway, yeah, so those are the floors, and for the walls, we basically know that walls, you have different types that of finishing that you can put there, and typically the most basic is paint, and then there's some wallpaper. Um, and for specialized project, you can put paneling, you can put cloth or glass or metal panels on it. You can even put mirrors, and you can put in like natural materials like cork. Okay, but the most common are paint or wallpaper. And paint, they have different finishings on paint. You have basically flat, which is you know highly susceptible to smudges and dirt. Then you have gloss, very protective, but some people don't like gloss and because it's too shiny. It looks like tile if you have gloss. So sometimes people would settle for satin, which is in between a flat and a gloss. And then before you apply your paint, the wall itself must be prepped for what type of um, texture you want. Okay, so let me send this texture. There you go. Texture, you can have an orange peel like this, or you can have a knockdown. Knockdown means that they had a sprayer on it and then they just, sanded it very, very lightly, and that's called a knockdown. Or you can leave it smooth. Okay. And then for wallpaper, we know that there's different wallpapers, but for our project, we can have custom or special printed wallpaper, or sometimes they look like stone, like bricks. Okay. Now, baseboards or wall base are basically those in our house or apartments. You would see them. They could be 4 inches, 6 inches, or they could be like 2 inches thick, and they could be made out of wood or metal. For offices, they're mostly rubber, and for the bathroom or restrooms, we put some tile base, and that's to guard the bottom of the wall from being hit, being crashed, or being kicked. Okay. Ceilings, we can have a hard ceiling, a chipboard, painted for offices, or in our project, I think we used acoustic ceiling tiles, and also we use some baffles. Okay, decorative baffles. Okay. Now it's not always but decorative. It could also serve as a sound baffling device. Okay. Now other finishing accessories would include corner guards to protect from crashing into the corners, because the corners really get a beating, especially if they're 90-degree corners. You can see in some houses they have rounded corners, but if you have a straight corner, then you want to protect that corner from crashing. You would see this mostly in hospitals, that because they would be having to push like gurneys. It would crash into a wall, and so they would put this corner guards. They would also put this crash rails like this, and you can see them made out of rubber or wood or metal. And then on the bottom of the wall, you might also see this metal piece. They're called bump rails. Basically, it's for the wheels of the gurney or the wheelchair to not hit the wall and protect the wall. Okay. Now, wainscoting is basically you like divide the wall into two parts. You know, there's an upper part and a lower part, and the lower part is called the wainscoting. And sometimes it could just be a piece of wood and then there's painted top, some metal paneling or wood paneling, then you have a wallpaper. And wainscoting doesn't need to be wood or metal. It could also be like another wallpaper, um, or a vinyl sheet that looks like a certain material. So those are called wainscot. Or you could also put in, instead of paint and wallpaper, you could put in decorative wall panels. Sometimes they're made out of wood, sometimes they're made out of metal or tile, or they could just be a modules that interconnect together that gives you a natural feel. In this case, it's like wood. Okay, I'm just designing or changing the format here so it fits the width of the paper. Anyway, if you wanted to have a specialized wall, architects or interior designers will actually do an interior elevation of that wall and show you the different elements and pieces. Okay, mostly for like restaurants and cafe, this is done. This is done. So, but mostly also this is only done when you have an interior designer. Some architects will add this on as a special service, and in this case, it's showing you the wall on elevation DD. And where it's DD, you would have to look at the tag. Where is elevation DD? Because if you only have this one, you don't know where DD is, right? Where's this? Is this wall, or is this the wall above here? Or it's certainly not these end walls, left and right. Okay, right. So we don't know which wall is DD referring to. So if I look at the plan, I know that DD is basically this wall here. That's this wall. Okay. But in order for us to know which wall it is, we do need to create an elevation of that wall and show what kind of print will go on that wall, if there's any wainscoting, if there's anything like that. So yeah, so we have to do that. Um, and basically for projects, we are going to for our project, we're going to simply do a finish schedule. And a finish schedule looks like this. It usually takes one sheet. This is very detailed because this project has materials, and they have materials of use for the project. So let's look at a bigger picture there. Okay, so here is that bigger picture. So the materials, they assign a mark on the material and describe the material. Okay, and then they use that mark to specify, like, hey, in this room 100, which is the entry, the floor is WD6. Okay, and then the base is WD7. So if you look at your material, WD6 here, or WD6 is here, it is a random, uh let's go here, WD6. Random width plank, 3 inch, 5 inch, 7 inch peg hand scrap with grain to be bid, right? So that's very specialized. It's very detailed. You specify it, and then you use that for your schedule. Okay, and your schedule, you can see here they're all like marks or symbols or tags because they use that over here in the material. So we're not gonna do it this way. Very very difficult to do. So we are going to do it simpler, and we are also going to put in some general notes. General notes basically just to protect the architect and the owner from the manner of how the finishes will be installed. It's like a clause that if the finishes doesn't turn out right, then they have to repeat it for free. Yeah, so the manufacturer will have to make sure he gets a subcontractor who knows how to do it before you can't just get a regular guy. Okay, so for your work, you will do a room finish schedule sheet, one sheet, and usually we put in a an elevation tag. So this one is pointing to one wall, and it's found on sheet 7.3, and it's number 6. Or you could see a elevation tag. It looks like this, and the elevation tag number 2 looks like the drawing of the elevation is on the same sheet, and it's number 8 on the sheet, and it's pointing to these 4 directions: one, two, three, four. Okay, so you have 4 elevations for this room. In this one, this is only pointing to one elevation on this room, but this one has 4. And you can see it in this example over here. You see that he or the architect's using a different wall elevation tag, and it says 1, 2, 3, 4 on it, and here's your 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, but you can also specify. You don't need to put the tag nowadays. There's universal practice now to only assign north, south, east, west. Okay, so if this is your room, a room which is basically square or rectangle, you would have a north side, a south side, a east side, and west side, and those are your full elevations, 4 elevations here. Okay, so since we only have a small project, we won't need to do some elevation tags like this, but in which case that when the symbol is an elevation tag. Okay, so for our project, we're going to create a room finish schedule, and you will see here on the room finish schedule, you would see the north wall, south wall, east wall, and west wall. Okay, so you have your floor finish, your base or your baseboard, and and you have your wall, but your wall is made out of 4 different sides. And then you have your ceiling finish. Okay, so we will not create a finish legend. So we're not going to say, oh, the manufacturer is Armstrong. This type is an acoustic ceiling. What pattern? Everything. We're not going to do that. We will directly put in on the ceiling that this is a Armstrong acoustic tile or Cortega pattern model 704 color white 24 by 24. So we're just going to make a bigger box here, and we're going to put all this information here. All right. We are not going to create a vendors list, okay? But for big projects and for public projects, they do put the vendor there and their equivalent, okay? So here's a sample of a finish schedule. You would have your room number, and we've discussed about room numbers before. Then you have to call out what room it is. Then you have your wall finish, okay? But this one is only having one wall because this is a very simple one where you don't have different finishes for each side of the wall, um, then yeah, it can be done this way. But this is what I'm talking about. We're not gonna call out exactly. We are going to call out. I mean, exactly who the manufacturer is, what kind of pattern, what kind of size, what kind of color, directly on the finish. Okay, we're gonna say, oh, this is 3 millimeter. My Polo Spirit floor finish, or this is a plasterboard tape and painted epoxy, yeah, so we're gonna do that, but make sure that on your floor or room finish that you break down the wall into north, south, east, west, and that is because our project is not an office, it's not a residence, it is a cafe, and you will have to create something that's fit for a cafe. So you would have to call out maybe wainscoting. Maybe you're gonna call out this type of wallpaper, and you have to do some research because you have to specify the color, the size, the print, and everything like that. So make sure that you do your research for the material you're going to use, especially for the public seating area. Okay, you would have an accent wall, and on that accent wall, you have to call out what you want to use. Okay, so for your independent work, you're going to create a finish schedule sheet. You don't need to break the base into north, south, east wall. So here you see a base, and there's north, south, east. Okay, you don't need to, unless you want to. You don't need to. But the walls you do. You do have to break them down. And then if you don't have wainscoting or wainscot, Yeah, just you don't need a wainscot, but you do have a ceiling finish, and you don't need to specify the uh, crown. The crown is basically a molding. So when you say crown, it is actually a molding, and crown molding is basically on the corner edges up. I'm sorry, I clicked on Home Depot. Um, is basically on top of the ceiling. So those are your crown molding. Okay. So that's something that I think I put that here, but anyway, we're not gonna have that unless you want to. And then just put the height of the ceiling in the ceiling or on the remarks. Okay. So you will create another sheet for this. I think it's A8 now. 8 A7 maybe window schedule or something like that, but create yours. You might need to have an A8 or A9, and then we're gonna create a PDF for submission on this project. Okay, yeah. So we will create a um, interior schedule finish, and I will give you sample pictures of what the schedule looks like. Okay, so you will not do a finished material legend. Uh, so your room finish schedule will be basically something like this. You're gonna have a room name, room number, room name, your floor finish, and you have your base finish, and then your wall will be north wall, south wall, east and west wall. But these will be bigger boxes because you will not do a legend. You will not do legend like this. You will simply put in, hey, on this wall, I will put a where's the wall here? We will put we will do paint on the left wall and Sherman Williams and then SW704 and the color is swirly gray. That's it. You're gonna put that here. But again, like I told you, you're going to need to put like some wallpaper or paneling. And then for the ceiling finish, you will put in like a ceiling finish is over here. So we're gonna put in Armstrong acoustic ceiling tile, Cortega pattern. So that's what you're gonna put on here. Okay, and you will also put in a general finish notes. Okay. Uh, yeah, so you will need to type this into your AutoCAD file. So yeah, so that's what you're going to do for this module. Okay, good luck.